Hi, Lisa Anderson here from A Healing Place Complete Counseling Care. So today's topic is going to be a little bit more serious than maybe other topics have been recently, and it's going to be regarding suicide and suicide prevention. So I watched a lot of the social chatter to get a feel of what's going on in the community. And what I keep seeing pop up is with having the shelter at home, what about those people who are going to lose their businesses and maybe become suicidal, and that's going to kill people more? And so what I want people to understand is, first of all, suicide is preventable. And so it's just a matter of knowing what to look for and to get over some fears about talking about suicide. So it is interesting, though, that it is a significant reason that people die in the world, and it doesn't always get the attention it needs. In fact, the WHO organization, the World Health Organization, estimates that approximately 1 million people die from suicide each year. Well, that's a large amount of people that are dying. So it needs to be taken more seriously than sometimes it does. But I think the reason that it doesn't get taken seriously is there's some myths out there that people believe about suicide. And when you're thinking about that, one of them is that people who really talk about suicide aren't going to really do it, that they're just seeking attention. Well, that's just not true. Almost everyone that talks about wanting to die or suicidal thinking is definitely having some thoughts about suicide and are giving you a clue or a warning that they are having those thoughts. So no matter how much casually it's talked about, or if it seems like it's out of frustration, there still needs to be discussion about that. The other one is that anyone who wants to kill themselves is just crazy. They must just be crazy. And it's actually true. That's not true either. Most people who think about dying by suicide are not psychotic, are not insane. They're not, in fact, a lot of them don't even have depression. It's a very situational. There's grief stricken, that maybe there's a loss in their life, a loss of job, loss of loved one, loss of pet, loss of friendship, a boyfriend, girlfriend. So there's a lot of that comes in with that. And then it also, there's this belief that if someone's going to kill themselves, there's nothing you can do about it. But research actually shows that's not true either, that we can actually intervene with people who are depressed if we are paying attention and we know what warning signs to happen. Most people who are feeling suicidal want some help with it, and they want permission to talk about it. So if you give them that, they feel some relief. The other thing is that people who are thinking about suicide don't want to get help. That is also not true. There's just some shame and guilt with this, and so they're worried about what people will think. But it's not that they don't want help, and that if you talk to someone about suicide, that you might be giving them an idea of suicide. Again, that's not true. They're already thinking about this. They already have this on their mind. It's similar to parents saying, well, if I talk to my child about sex, that means they're going to want to go have sex. And the reality is think about yourself as a teenager. Teenagers' hormones are just bubbling. They already want to have sex. Talking about sex isn't going to make them want that, and talking about suicide isn't going to make them want to do suicide either. So what are some of the warning signs? They can be subtle, but some of the more generalized or more recognized subtle signs are exactly talking about suicide, that they are actually discussing about dying or not wanting to be alive anymore, or I just wish I hadn't been born, or I'd be better off dead. Those are all signs that they're having those kinds of thoughts. And if they're starting to seek out lethal means, like they're talking about buying a gun, or they're talking about buying medication or getting over-the-counter medications like Tylenol, which people don't realize is much more lethal than people understand. Or if there's this preoccupation with death, that they're talking about death a lot, and they're talking about what it would be like to not be alive anymore. Or you hear this hopelessness going on, that there's just no hope for the future, that there's no point in living, that I'd be better off with death. They believe that nothing's ever going to change. There's this, and sometimes you see this self-loathing or self-hatred, like I'm a horrible person, I'm stupid, I'm dumb, I'm ugly. Everyone would be better off without me. I'm just a burden. If you see someone getting their affairs in order, they like to seem like they're getting their affairs, like just closing down their business, or maybe they are redoing their will, or they're starting to write letters to loved ones, that can be a indicator of suicidal thinking. Saying goodbye, like instead of just a typical goodbye, there's this long unexpected pause, or hanging on, or an unusual goodbye, or that there's these weird texts coming through. Those are all signs that this person might be thinking about suicide. Withdrawing, isolating, that's a very big thing that happens, because people who are feeling suicidal, they often feel like they are a burden on family members and friends, and so they begin to start withdrawing. You might see self-destructive behavior, reckless behavior starting to happen, or all of a sudden there could be this sense of calm. And that can be a really strong indicator. If they were really not doing well and all of a sudden they seem happy, they may have made the decision to end their life. And because of that, there's this calmness. So one of the things that people say is, okay, I've recognized these symptoms, but now what do I do with it? You have to have a conversation. And this can be very uncomfortable for people to have this conversation, but you need to start having a conversation about, you can say things like, I'm feeling very concerned about you. I'm worried about, I've noticed changes in you, and I'm wondering if you're thinking about ending your life. Or I'm thinking that you keep mentioning that you wish you weren't alive. Are you thinking about suicide? So really bringing that question out. And then you can start asking, well, when did you start feeling like this? And when did this start happening? And how can I best help you? And then you can start letting them know that they're not alone, that you're here for them, you want to support them, you want to take care of them. But you got to be sure that, that you are comfortable in this conversation and you know what resources to go to. Because if they say, yes, I am thinking about suicide, then you need to know what to do. So first things first, if they're not actively suicidal, that they're not at risk like immediately, that they've got a plan, that they've got the means to do it, that they're going to give you a date that you're going to do it, you can do this in that let's contact your doctor and talk to your doctor, or let's get you in to see a therapist. If it's where this other what I just talked about, that they have a plan, they've got a means, their intent, they're going to do it soon, this might take more of, can we get you to the hospital? Will you go with us? And if they won't, you may need to contact law enforcement in order to protect that person. Now, they might be mad at you, but when they feel better, they'll be so glad that you did that for them. So you really don't want to argue with a suicidal person or act like shocked and surprised, because that's going to shut them down. Don't ever promise confidentiality that you won't tell anybody else, because that's a promise that could backfire on you, because if they are really truly thinking about killing themselves, you're going to need to tell somebody. So try not to do that. Offer ways to help your loved one. Offer ways to help support them. Let's go talk to a therapist. Let's go to the doctor. Let's take you to the hospital. I'll go with you, but you're important to me. I love you. I need you in my life. Because they truly believe they're a burden. Most people who are having suicidal thinking are conflicted. They don't necessarily want to die. They just want the emotional pain to go away. And this is the only way they can think of. So if you know someone who you've noticed some of these signs, or you yourself are someone who has seen these signs of yourself, please reach out for help. I am going to post the suicide prevention line in my Facebook page so that people can see that, but please reach out for help. It's completely preventable, and there is help out there. You need to remember, people love you, you're important to them, and the problem with suicide is it's a permanent solution for a temporary problem. I know it can feel like the world is ending, but it's not.